The second lesson in our unit on the classical period is 2.2, and this is all about South Asian and Dharmic religions. So again, we're looking at 600 BCE to 600 CE, so a 1200 year span. And the area that we're going to be focusing on in these notes is this region in pink, which we now call India, a part of Pakistan, but this is the region that we will be learning about. Looking at our timeline, we are going to be in South Asia, and so the two empires we're going to learn about are the Marian Empire and the Gupta Empire, but also Buddhism, which started in India, came before the Marian Empire. So our learning goal for this lesson is that you will be able to describe the growth and key characteristics of South Asian religious and political development. So you'll be able to compare the reactions to Vedic religion and Brahmanism. You'll be able to investigate the Marian Empire and the spread of Buddhism in India. And then you'll be able to examine the Gupta Empire and the revival of Hinduism in India. So the essential questions are, how and why did Buddhism and Upanishadic Hinduism arise as a reaction to the ritualism of Brahmanism? How did Buddhism's appeal to lower classes and to merchant classes contribute to literary and artistic diffusion throughout South Asia during the Marian period? And to what extent was the Gupta Empire a continuation of the Marian Empire? And just a quick timeline, because this is a lot of information. So in the ancient world unit, you did hear a couple of times the Veda, which is the religious book in India, and so that is the Vedic age. And this Indus Valley civilization, that's one of the river valley civilizations. So when you look at this, there's Brahmanism, which is also related to the Vedic religion. And then when we look at source 1, that's the Marian Empire, and that's when Hinduism and Buddhism come into play as a reaction to this Brahmanism. And then we're also going to focus, starting with source 2, on the Gupta Empire. And notice there's a huge gap in between. So, reactions to the Vedic religion and to Brahmanism. So Brahmanism, which started in the ancient period, 1100 BCE, is a religion that appeared at the end of the Vedic period, and it focused on rituals and guidance of priests called Brahmins. And this religion would later evolve into Hinduism. So with Brahmanism, these Brahmins or priests were at the top of the social class in the ancient South Asian hierarchy, and they had power over religious routines and rituals from the Vedas, that religious book, that supported social and gender divisions between classes and castes. So when you look at this social hierarchy, the Brahmin are at the top of this hierarchy, and they have ultimate religious power. So salvation can be had through a series of reincarnations, which is the rebirth of the soul over many lives, and karma, which is one's status based on what you did in past lives, was linked to faithfulness to ritual and ceremony. Not how we think of karma today as moral or ethical behavior. So during the Vedic religion, during Brahmanism, your status, your ability to be reincarnated was based on karma, which is how faithfully you adhere to the rituals. So you could be a horrible person, but if you fulfill the rituals, then you had good karma. So in 500 BCE, there emerges the beginning of Hinduism with this shift from the Brahmin rituals, this focus that the rituals that the priests will do, is the most important, to a more moral focus. So religious devotion is now shown through your personal worship and your moral behavior, being a good person, and it relies less on intervention from the priestly class, meaning the priest class is going to have less power. Both Hinduism and Buddhism developed as a reaction to the ritualism of Brahmanism, and that ritualism is controlled by the priests. So both Hinduism and Buddhism share some similarities like karma, but they took on different beliefs and practices. So for instance, Buddhism did not follow the caste order and rejected the sacredness of the Vedas, the sacredness of the ancient religious text. So now we're going to look at the first of two empires. So this is the Marian Empire, and the Marian Empire also spread Buddhism in India. So Buddhism was founded in the 500s BCE, and it was founded as a reaction to the focus on ceremonies and to the caste system that was found in Hinduism. The social and the religious message of Buddhism was attractive to merchants and to urban populations. So those people, merchants and urban populations, helped spread Buddhism throughout South Asia through both trade and commerce. And so one of the sources you will be looking at in this group of lessons is here, source 6, which shows this orange is the spread of Buddhism out of India to Southeast Asia, to East Asia, and then also going to the Northwest. So here is a map of the Marian Empire at its height. So all this area in purple, again, this is now India and also Pakistan and some other countries. The lower social groups and women were attracted to Buddhism also, so not just the merchants and the urban populations. Buddhist monasteries were open to anyone that was seeking nirvana, which is the feeling of peace and happiness, no matter your caste or your gender. So it did not matter where you were on the social hierarchy, that's the caste system, nor did it matter if you were a woman, you were welcome to the monasteries. So those monasteries helped to spread Buddhism. Those monasteries made written copies of Buddhist texts, and that increased the portability and the spread of Buddhism. So now you actually have the text in writing as you are traveling to East Asia, Southeast Asia, you can bring that text with you. And then also monks in these monasteries were examples of appropriate behavior and right living. The Marian Empire, which is 322 to 187 BCE, was created after the invasions of Alexander the Great. It was the first centralized state or empire in South Asia, and it borrowed ideas from the Greeks and the Persians. Those are the two groups that invaded them. It borrowed ideas about how to govern. Emperor Ashoka converted to Buddhism, and he used state authority to promote Buddhist religion and to improve the lives of his people. So once he became Buddhist, he then spread Buddhism throughout his empire and also spread it throughout the rest of Asia. So he sent teachers throughout India and Asia to spread Buddhism. He made laws that encouraged people to do good deeds. He made hospitals for people and for animals, and he built roads with rest houses and shade trees. Next, we're going to look at hundreds of years after the Marian Empire. We're looking at the Gupta Empire, which did not cover as much land as the Marian Empire. As you can see here, this is much smaller than the Marian Empire, but it was the golden age of India. So with the Gupta Empire, you have the revival of Hinduism in India. Hinduism has not been in India since Ashoka became a Buddhist. So the Gupta Empire reunified most of South Asia because 400 years after the Marian Empire, India broke up into smaller kingdoms, and the core territory of the Gupta Empire was the Ganges River Valley. Outside of that core territory, the Gupta government made tributary relationships with local rulers who are allowed to keep local control, but again, they had to pay tribute. At the height of the Gupta Empire, its commercial economy was linked to the Silk Roads, making and exchanging cotton textiles, spices, things like cinnamon, and then sugar. The Gupta Empire is called the Golden Age of India. It had advancements in science and in math. This was the first to calculate pi. It created the base 10 number system, including coming up with a representation of 0, which is the basis of our modern mathematics, and it was the first to calculate the solar year with the Earth revolving around the sun. The Gupta Empire also contributed to the revival of Hinduism through state sponsorship. So remember, the empire that was in existence several hundred years prior to this, the Marian Empire under Ashoka, was big on Buddhism. And here in this image on the top right, this is a stupa, which is Gupta temples, Hindu temples. And then also the spread of the Hindu epic literature occurred in the Gupta Empire, and that Hindu epic literature became models for moral behavior. That is all of the notes for this lesson on 2.2. So we will be using this information with our sources and also for our writing.